In today's episode, Tammy asks, there was talk this week about AI and machine learning, and I was disturbed by a claim a speaker made at the CXL conference. He basically asserted that we should not be concerned about bias being trained into AI because we can just, quote, remove the variable from the model that causes the bias. Essentially, if we don't want the model to bias against race, then we should take race out of the model. What do you make of this? This speaker's an idiot. This speaker is an idiot who is completely unqualified to be doing artificial intelligence and machine learning. There is no polite way of saying that. This person, I'm assuming it's a guy because he used the he pronoun, but this person has no business making artificial intelligence models, and this is one of the reasons why people talk seriously about things like certification or qualification, because if this person deploys this model in the wild, in production, they are going to create horrendously biased models. Here's why. Removing a variable from a model because you don't like the effect it creates is functionally like saying, I don't like that my car is going off to one side because of the right wheel, so I'm going to remove the right wheel. Well, no. What if that wheel's important? What if it is it a critical piece of the model? That philosophy of, I'll just remove the thing that's causing the problem is completely wrong. The reason why, in addition to the variable that might be important, is that just because you remove the explicit variable does not mean you remove the bias from the model. Machine learning models, particularly deep learning models, but even ones like gradient boosting models, can create what is called inferred variables. This is when you engineer, or the machine auto-engineers, variables together that move in sync. For example, suppose you have Facebook data and you've collected books you like and movies you like and music you like. Guess what? That combination of data is so good a predictor of age, of race, of religion, of gender, that when the machine creates an inferred variable from that, it will rebuild age and race and gender and then discriminate on it. And because you've removed race from the model, you make the assumption that the model is no longer biased, when in fact it has rebuilt those biases right in. And now, because you think you've removed it, you're no longer looking for it. You're no longer trying to detect it. And that means that the model can go wildly off course. So this person's an idiot. What's the right way to do this? The right way to do this is to do what IBM does, which is to, in your systems, in your modeling software, in your production software, and your monitoring software for AI, you declare protected classes. You say age is a protected class. It must fit the natural demographic skew of the population you're targeting against. Race is a protected class. You may not discriminate outside certain variances. Gender is a protected class. For example, if you were to say that the gender split between male and female should be roughly 50-50, or 45-45 and 10 for non-binary folks. Whatever the case may be, you declare to the system, this is protected. You may not deviate outside of these norms beyond like 1 or 2%. And then what the system does is it holds those variables as anchor points. And when it builds a model around them, it does not allow the model to pull those variances in any direction. It's kind of like, again, the example of a tire on your car that's out of alignment. This essentially puts additional hands on the steering wheel to keep the car going in the direction it's supposed to be going and not allow that one wonky tire to pull the car in the wrong direction. By using protected classes as part of the model and declaring that they are protected classes, you ensure that the model will not be biased, because the model cannot use those variables for determination for as targets or as inputs beyond a certain point. And you also make them targets. You say you must meet this qualification. You must stay within this lane. Watson's OpenScale product does this really well in production, which, by the way, is really important, because after you deploy the model, if you're not monitoring for biases creeping in as the model is in production, you risk very serious consequences. Amazon found that out the hard way when their HR system started systematically discriminating against women. Nobody was watching the system in real time to say, that's no, the 50-50 in our test data or training data has become 90-10 in our production data. You want systems in place in production that are monitoring and holding those protected classes in place and alerts you and says, hey, something is going awry. Microsoft found that out the hard way with their Tay Twitter bot, which got turned into a racist porn bot in 24 hours. Nobody put guardrails on it. Nobody said, these are the things you may not do. And had somebody thought that through, that might have been a slightly more successful experiment. So, no, removing the variables from the model that cause the bias does not eliminate bias. If anything, it makes it worse because it reduces the explainability, the interpretability of the model. Instead, the right way is to protect the variables that are protected classes, that are protected aspects, and then be keeping an eye on your models, be keeping an eye on your data, be keeping an eye on the results that a system puts out, and be fact-checking it. This is a critical career in a lot of ways right now. And for the next couple of years, of someone supervising the machines and saying, machine, that is not an okay output. Explain yourself. Tell me why you made those decisions. And that's another critical point that this person clearly has no understanding of. All of your models should have interpretability built into them. All of your models should have the ability to spit out, hey, here's how I made these decisions. Here's what's in the black box. Deep learning, in particular, has gotten so much better in the last 6 months in showing how a machine made a model that there's no excuse anymore for saying, well, it's just a black box and we don't know how it works, but it's the right answer. Well, you don't know that. And regulations like GDPR require you by law to be able to explain your models. So using software like IBM Watson Studio and Watson OpenScale will help you hit those benchmarks and make sure that you are compliant with the law. So what I make of this person has no business building AI models. This person probably should take a course in ethics. I strongly recommend anybody who's looking to get into this stuff to read Dr. Hilary Mason's completely free book on Amazon called Ethics in Data Science. You need to read it, use the checklists in it, and then use commercial systems from reputable vendors that have some of these checks and balances built into them so that you don't make these mistakes, because these mistakes will get you sued, they will get you fired, and they will make society a worse place if your model gets out in the wild. You can tell I feel pretty strongly about this. Great question, Tammy. Be very beware of that company. Wow. And for everyone else, as you're deploying machine learning, as you're testing it out, as you're putting it in production, as you're supervising it, make sure that somebody's done their homework and has thought through things like bias, because you can ruin your company, your relationships with your customers, and as we see with some companies like Facebook, you can ruin society if you are not thinking about what your AI does. As always, please leave your comments in the comments box below and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.